in Capital News tonight. President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan calls on African countries to put more emphasis on green growth and decarbonization. The Bank of Tanzania says measures are being taken to ensure financial institutions support growth of the agricultural sector. And in sports news, Taifa Stars warned to be cautious of Algeria in the AFCON qualifier on Sunday. Good evening. This is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Vanessa Victor. Let's get started with the national news. The President of Tanzania, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, who is in Nairobi, Kenya, for the Africa Climate Summit 2023, hosted by President William Ruto of Kenya, with over 20 African presidents in attendance, has emphasized that the interlink between development and climate change is undeniable and that action needs to be taken to capitalize on the continent's ability to offer solutions to green growth and decarbonization.
The convening of this important summit is both timely and opportune, as the theme, driving green growth and climate finance solution for Africa and the world, is quite befitting, especially now ahead of COP28, where parties will take stock of our efforts to address the climate crisis and commitment to address both climate crisis in the context of the Paris Agreement and the Climate Convention itself. Excellencies, the stakes are high and actions have to take place not tomorrow, but today and literally now. As Africans, we have no choice but to seize the moment to capitalize on its potential to offer solutions to green growth and decarbonization, and while creating resilience to our communities and economy.
Many of our countries are headed into debt distress because of climate change. Let's be honest, we are suffering the most, whether it is in the Sahel with drought, whether it is in the Horn of Africa with drought, whether it is in South Africa and the southern part of our continent with cyclones. And we are saying the suffering is across the globe, but we carry the biggest brunt. I'll contextualize this. And because of climate change, we are forced to divert resources that are meant for economic growth into dealing with the effects of climate change. I will contextualize this. In Kenya, we lost 2.5 million heads of livestock in northern part of Kenya. Combined with Ethiopia and Somalia.
And the managing director of Muhimbili National Hospital, Professor Mohamed Janabi, has said that the hospital will begin to provide liver transplant services by 2025, a continuation of the government's goal to ensure the best medical services are available in the country. Professor Janabi said this when opening the initial training for the diagnosis and treatment of liver diseases at the hospital in the run-up to the conference on liver disease in Africa that is expected to start on September 7th.
Among the leading causes of morbidity and mortality worldwide, if I can tell you from our personal experience here in the department, in a quarter, which is 3 months, we see over 6,000 patients, meaning 2,000 patients a month. We do about 600 endoscopies a month. So in our country, that's a lot, especially considering we are on the tertiary center and other centers are doing likewise. So we know that the liver diseases are affecting people from different backgrounds and ages, but common diseases which we see here are viral hepatitis.
Whatever I can do, whatever my team can do back at home and Apollo, we would invest in time, and we would help in whichever way possible. That's all I can say. So we have the basics now, and we should be using this opportunity to start using the technology, start producing results, publishing, maybe having joint publications, and having collaborations which are long-standing. So looking forward to that, and hoping to sit with you and work out something so that this can be cemented in a way that it results in benefits to
from the public health side of it and the private side of it. We see an opportunity to learn a comprehensive way of understanding liver diseases and see how we can advance that in our own countries. I have colleagues with me here from the Gambia, respectively, and they are also equally inspired and are eager to learn from one of the largest hospitals in the SADC region. And also, we want to see how we can incorporate what we learn here into our systems, and how we can use that to improve the quality of care for people that are affected with liver diseases, such as viral hepatitis, as well as non-infectious versions of hepatitis.
African governments need to take various measures that include giving small farmers affordable inputs, knowledge, skills and capital so as to increase productivity in the food production value chain. The call was made by the Vice President of Tanzania, Dr. Philip Mpango, in Dar es Salaam when opening the Africa Food Systems Forum, AGRF.
Inadequate financing of food value chains is also still a major constraint, mainly due to high cost of borrowing for the agriculture sector. And additionally, women and youth tend to be the most financially excluded segments of the population. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my firm conviction that such challenges can and must be resolved with transformative ideas from this summit. Allow me to lay out just 4 areas for your consideration in subsequent discussions. First, on the supply side, I think Africa needs to harness existing scientific knowledge, including indigenous technology, to produce and process enough food for its people and for the globe.
90% of fertilizers come from outside the continent. And when challenges happen outside the continent, Africa gets challenges because we don't have the ability to produce fertilizers or what. So we are going to be hearing some of that, and I challenge us to think through how we can be part of that market. Tomorrow we'll be talking about nutrition in the morning. In the afternoon we'll be talking about trade and how we can get the Africa Free Continental Trade to work. We have so much people. We have so much in our midst. Let's talk about how that potential can eventually work for this continent. On Thursday, we talk about leadership and leading for transformation of Africa's food systems. We will have ministers, over 38 ministers from 23 countries, talking about how they can transform their food systems. We'll see former leaders that have been part of transforming Africa look back, but also advise on how we can continue moving forward in what we are calling the Council of the Wise.
The world is discussing about food security. The world is projecting 9 billion people in the near future. The world is threatened by the environment challenge. Africa is the youngest continent with an average age of 20 years old. Africa has over 65% land which has not been utilized. The future and the sustainability of the world will only happen if the African continent and African leaders play a greater role to complement each other instead of competing each other for the utilization of the available resources.
And meanwhile, participants of the Africa Food Systems Forum have said that the forum will come up with solutions to address challenges affecting the agricultural sectors so as to make Africa self-sufficient on food.
Jambo la kufedhesha sana Afrika kuendelea kutegemea chakula kutoka nje. Bara la Afrika peke yake, nchi zilizoko kusini na mashariki na maeneo ya kati ya Afrika yanaweza kutosheleza kabisa kuzalisha bara la Afrika kwa chakula, lakini pia yanaweza kutosheleza mpaka tukao tunauza pia nje. Sasa hivi bara la Afrika sisi tunapokea mauzo kutoka nje takriban yenye dola za Kimarekani bilioni 30.
Very important to first of all know your markets. And then most importantly to know what it is you're capable of in terms of your source, land, what particular piece of land or what particular area of the country can generate enough yield for that particular product. And then once you have that equation, then you are able to sort of mitigate all these other factors that come in that are attributed to food insecurity.
Nchoteka Health Center in Tunduru District, Ruvuma region, is facing a major shortage of nurses, forcing the 4 nurses there out of the 16 required that are employed to work 24 hours a day without rest.
Tuna wauguzi 4 ambao kimsingi hata sasa tunalazimika kufanya kazi masaa 24 bila kuwa na mapumziko hata chembe. Kwa sababu huwezi ukalan, kwa sababu kuna pande mbili hapa.
Vitatusaidia kuboresha huduma kwa sababu tutaweza kuhudumia wananchi wengi. Hiki kituo kilikuwa tayari kimeshapanuliwa. Kwa hiyo kwa kutumia vitanda hivi tumeweza kupata vile wodi ya wamama pamoja na watoto.
Kwa mfano ikiwepo kitanda cha kulaza watoto wadogo kama hiki hapa hatukuwa nacho. Pia na vitanda vingine ambavyo vya huduma mbalimbali hatukuwa navyo. Tulikuwa na vitanda vichache tu ambavyo vinafanya kazi. Hivi havikuwa vinatoshea. Ukina mama wajawazito walikuwa wanajifungulia mpaka wanasubiriana.
Over 190 out of 853 people living close to Nyangaza mine in Sengerema district, Mwanza region, have begun to receive compensation for making way for gold mining activities, with over 3.7 billion shillings paid to the residents.
Mimi nasikia furaha kwa sababu mgodi unaweza kila Mtanzania apate furaha apate, kwa sababu mgodi ukifika mradi kama huo uko kisheria lazima upishe waachie maeneo serikali ipate asilimia. Hata mimi nashukuru sana kwa sababu pale nilipo nimeshaondoka. Kwanza nilikuwa sina nyumba, leo nimepata nyumba.
Pesa ambayo nimeipokea kwanza nimejisikia faraja, halafu mimi nilichagua kujengewa nyumba.
Mtumie fedha hizi vizuri kwa maendeleo yenu binafsi, ikiwa ni pamoja na kujikwamua kiuchumi, kubadilisha maisha yenu, kujenga nyumba bora, kwa kuongeza mashamba, muongeze maeneo. Kama umefidiwa fedha na kafedha kanatosha, sasa hivi ardhi bado ipo katika maeneo mengi tu, nenda nunua tena ardhi kwa ajili ya watoto wako.
The reading culture in Tanzania has evolved and grown significantly over the years, with more locals going to traditional bookstores to purchase books. However, more awareness needs to be raised among children and youth on the importance of reading, not only for educational purposes, but for mental and emotional development. This is said by Sarah Clithero, a proponent of and stakeholder in the reading sector.
To be fair, is that around 20% of the customers who come here to ask for a recommendation, they really go for what you recommend, but the rest, they usually want you to confirm their choice. Yeah.
It was pretty much a bookshop for expats. There wasn't a reading culture in Tanzania when we first opened, but that's changed now. It's gone full circle, and our main core of customer are Tanzanians, and they're very well read, and they want to get their hands on more and more literature as time goes by, and we've had generations now go through the bookshop. Customers are, they were kids when they first came in.
That's the end of the national news. Business News is next. In business news, the governor of the Bank of Tanzania, BOT, Manuel Tutuba, has said that the central bank will continue to implement various measures to make sure that financial institutions create a conducive environment for the development of the agricultural sector that includes providing low interest rate loans to farmers.
Last year, we decided to create a monetary policy instrument to attract commercial banks that will have more liquidity to support agriculture. And our aim was to lower the interest rates. So we lowered the statutory minimum reserves to around 6% and encourage all the commercial banks that will come up with specific products which will enable agricultural practitioners to access
agri-processing, so post-harvest value addition in Africa in 2030 will be around $1 trillion, driven by population growth, urbanization, and income growth. I think we've also heard, from previous speaker, that the continent actually is having a growing import bill of food. That of course includes processed food. So it seems like that clearly Africa is not capturing the potential and the opportunities that's there. Our vision is that, when it comes to capturing that opportunity, that access to markets and access to finance and actually go hand in hand. I don't think you can actually look at those issues separately.
Phone company Vodacom Tanzania, in collaboration with Precision Air, has launched a digital service that will enable customers to book and purchase Precision Air tickets via their M-Pesa account.
Una uwezo sasa wa kubuku tiketi ya ndege kupitia application yetu M-Pesa na kulipia kupitia M-Pesa. Kwa hiyo zamani ulikuwa unaweza tu kulipia, lakini sasa hivi ile experience nzima ya kubook ticket.
Kwanza ni huduma, kuboresha huduma kwa mteja, kwa wateja wote wa Precision Air, lakini pia na wale wa Vodacom. Moja kati ya vitu ambavyo vinawakwaza wateja ni kupata shida kupata huduma.
With the vision of Vodacom to become a lifestyle services provider, the super app where people can come and actually download different services, can enjoy different services like travel, gas, loans, insurance. So we are powering one of the most important app today, which is a travel experience app. With this, people will be able to download Vodacom Super App, and they don't need to download many apps.
That's where we leave off with business news. Sports is up next. Now in sports news. Former Stars coach Charles Boniface Mkwasa has urged the current players to play with caution when they face Algeria in the AFCON qualifiers this Sunday.
Kuwa na umakini katika kucheza na kujua wachezaji wajue wanatakiwa nini kukifanya, na pia kuwepo na hamasa kubwa na wenyewe wacheze kwa kujituma zaidi. Nadhani wanaweza kupata matokeo. Lakini kupata matokeo inabidi wafanye kazi ya ziada sana, kwa sababu Algeria sio timu nyepesi. Sio timu ambayo ya kuingia kichwa tu. Kija kichwa unaweza kuumia. Lakini kikubwa ni kwamba kuangalia namna gani ambavyo wanacheza, namna gani ambavyo wana strong point zao ziko wapi, na namna gani ambavyo mnaweza kucheza katika kudefend, kukaa na mpira muda mrefu na tusiruhusu magoli mepesi.
The National Athletics Championship has been moved to September 28th due to ongoing renovations on the running track at the Jamhuri Stadium.
Lakini tulitoa rai kwamba kwa wadau wote wa riadha ni kwamba tuwaombe samahani kwa mashindano haya kusogezwa mbele, lakini kufuatana na hizo sababu, kwa sababu hata mimi sipendi wakimbiaji wetu waweze kupata injury kwa ajili ya uwanja kwa mbaya. Kwa hiyo ninatuma mwakilishi wa kamati ya ufundi ili waweze kwenda kushirikiana na wao wa mkoa mwenyeji kwa ajili ya kuweka uwanja huo vizuri.
Handball training on physical and mental abilities for coaches has continued today at Twalipo grounds in Dar es Salaam, having reached their 7th week.
Tunajifundisha michezo kama handball, football, volleyball na vitu vingine na michezo mingine ili kuleta uhalisia wa michezo jeshini. Na hii ni kutokana na sera ambayo ipo jeshini ya kukuza michezo.
Natarajia nikiwa mwalimu bora mwenye weledi wa kuweza kuwaongoza watoto ili waweze kufanya vizuri, wafikie malengo yao.
Hii ni kozi ya stage 3 kwa maana ndio ngazi ya awali kwenye upande wa coaching.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin. On behalf of everyone who worked to bring you this bulletin, my name is Vanessa Victor. Thank you for watching and good night.
Watch Capital News at 9:30 and get updated on what is happening in Tanzania and around the world on political, social, and economic issues and events, without forgetting business and sports news. You can get it all right here on Capital News at 9:30 from Monday to Friday on Zuku Channel 067, Digitech Channel 1103, and Facebook Capital Television.
Mambo vipi mtazamaji wa ITV Super Brand Afrika Mashariki, karibu sana kwenye Jagina, mfululizo wa vipindi vya vijana wenye tija wapambanaji. Mimi kama kawaida naitwa Twarib Nasoro, niite Jagi Boy. Uweze kufahamu nimekuandalia nini siku ya leo. Karibu sana. Niko eneo la Sinza Mapambano. Nakutana na mjasiriamali mwanamke anafahamika kama Susan Kisimini, moja kati ya wadada ambao wanapambana kwenye nyanja moja ama nyingine. Huyu ni mmiliki wa chuo. Unajua ni chuo cha nini? Nitakuja kujua hapa. Mambo vipi? Shwari. Uko good?
Niko poa.
Nafurahi kuzungumza na wewe, nafurahi kuzungumza na wanawake wapambanaji. Wanasema zamani wanawake ilikuwa nadra sana kukuta ni mmiliki wa kitu fulani, wachache sana.
Ni kweli.
Sasa hivi imekuwa wengi ndio wamiliki, yani wanaume wachache. Unadhani kuna nini kimetokea hapa, mabadiliko haya yanakuja kureflect kwa kiasi kikubwa hivi?
Nadhani ni kampeni za kuwawezesha wanawake, lakini pia zamani mwanamke kwenda shule ilikuwa kidogo, ukishamaliza la 7 unaolewa, lakini sasa hivi tunakuta wanawake wasomi ni wengi.